Okay.
Ready?
Yep, kind of hot, sweaty, but
It's kind of warm. I know I wore this big sweater today. I was thinking it was a little colder than it was outside.
I don't know how you're not just sweating profusely under there.
Well, I wore good deodorant today.
Oh, okay. Do you have any
The
with
lights
you?
are kind of hot. Oh, yeah. I just happen to have some here.
Sweet. Wait, I can't use this though. This stuff causes Alzheimer's and cancer and all that stuff, right?
Oh, well, no, actually not. So I guess we need to probably debunk some health myths today, huh?
You mean all these years I could have not stunk?
Absolutely. In fact, here.
Can't wait to hear about more.
Let me get you. Ready? We'll be right back with the Naked Doctor and debunking health myths today. Hi, welcome back to the Naked Doctor. I'm Dr. Tammy.
I'm Lauren.
We have a really fun show for you today. We're going to talk about some health myths and things that I love stuff like this because I'm always like, I'm just a question asker. And I've always been like, I remember one time when I was a kid asking how boxes are made. And everybody's like, I don't know. Why is that important? I'm like, I don't know. Why is it not important?
Because I want to make sure my dollhouse doesn't fall over.
That's right. It's kind of like, why is the sky blue? You know, I think kids are just kind of wired to ask questions. It's just fun to know stuff like that.
It is, but when it comes to like health stuff, like we get so accustomed to just doing things that we're told from a young age that like we don't even realize we're doing things that we never questioned. You know, like what we had in the open about the deodorant. Like what? What do you mean it's not? It doesn't cause these things that everybody's been freaking out about for the last however long.
Yeah. And who knows what the agendas are for people saying certain things, or they want to. It's kind of like the whole healthcare industry. It's just driven by pharmaceuticals, and people don't know there's options. They don't know they can get their hormones tested. Of course, I could get that little plug in there.
Hormone plug.
So I went through and I found a few things on the internet, just some fun little things that we could talk about. I just made a few little notes, and Lauren will kind of go through those and we can talk about that. Of course, I never claimed to be the end-all, be-all and know everything on the planet. People used to ask me about artificial sweeteners, and for a while I thought, well, that was better than sugar. But then as more research came out, there were some issues with that. So I always reserve the right to be open to more research and more answers as they come out.
And so, like, when it comes to specifically the deodorant and the whole causing Alzheimer's or cancer and all that stuff, where do you think that came from, or how do we know that that's a myth?
Well, there was actually an email that was sent out kind of back in the early days of emails, probably about 10 years ago, and somebody was saying that they thought that they had found, based on a research study, that they had found increased levels of aluminum in the brains of people with Alzheimer's. So therefore they just extrapolated that it must cause cancer and it must cause all these other things too. So it's kind of like the gossip, the tail gets taller on down the line. And, well, now it causes cancer and it does all these other things. Now, I don't know about like the ozone layer and how aerosols are affecting us, and I'm not even going to speak to that, but as far as just direct exposure of things like the aluminum chloride and the things that actually work as antiperspirants, so there's a difference. There's deodorant, which is basically perfume, and a lot of times deodorants have alcohol or salt in them, which actually keeps the bacteria from growing, because sweat is sterile. It doesn't actually stink. It's the bacteria that grows from the sweat that comes out of the sweat gland. So it's usually alcohol that helps it dry faster, or it's a perfume or something. So an antiperspirant means anti-perspire, so it actually keeps you from sweating, from actually perspiring. And the way that works is it almost works, the aluminum or whatever the agent is, actually works to clog the pore of the sweat gland so that the sweat doesn't even actually come out. So if you've ever noticed, if you use a deodorant without an antiperspirant in it, just helps the smell, but it doesn't keep you from sweating. You know, it's funny, if I forget my deodorant antiperspirant in the morning, the only way I know is before it actually starts to smell funny is that it feels wet under there. And I'm like,
same.
Crap, I forgot it. And then it's like just a matter of time. It's a waiting game till it starts
it's like,
to
when is it going to creep up? You're like, does that mean?
The bacteria just kind of starts growing, and it grows quickly.
Which is interesting because, like, with that, like, I guess that do hormones play into the smell of bacteria or bacteria in general? Because little kids sweat, but they don't stink.
Right. So testosterone, when it kind of comes online as you go through puberty, and those hormones, those sex steroid hormones, absolutely. What they do is they make the sweat glands enlarge. So probably lots of evolutionary reasons for that, and they're more likely to overgrow with bacteria, which is also what causes acne, because it's those glands that are overproducing. So between the sweat glands, and that there's two different kinds of sweat glands. Won't go into all the anatomy of that, but certain sweat glands are stimulated by testosterone. So little kids don't really perspire as much as adults do, and that's why.
Gotcha.
So what they found was, yes, there were increased levels of aluminum in people with Alzheimer's. But when you go back and look at the research, it's like the chicken or the egg. So what happens in Alzheimer's and cancer and different things is it's inflammation. And in fact, we know now that Alzheimer's and cancer are 99% inflammation, and that can be caused from too much sugar in the diet. It can be caused from all sorts of environmental factors and stress. So as the body doesn't clear things as well, yes, you can have elevated levels of those things. Now, some things, if there's too much, like mercury and things like that, absolutely can start to cause some metabolic imbalances as the body's trying to clear that stuff, because the body doesn't really know what to do with it. So, but just using a small amount of antiperspirant every day, to me, any risk that's possibly there is far outweighed by somebody stinking.
Won't stink,
Being stressed out in the office because you smell bad. And you know, unfortunately, a lot of those quote natural antiperspirants just
they don't work. Yeah. You can lie to yourself all day, but everyone else knows the truth.
And soap and water goes a long way, but even some of our soaps have some different chemicals that could be problematic. So it's more likely that it's other things that we're doing.
Well, actually, another thing that was actually that I found recently is good for those who don't want to use antiperspirant is coconut oil. Actually, which makes sense because coconut oil will expand and harden, and also it's a natural antibiotic.
Oh, it's everything. It's natural.
Right.
I use coconut oil for everything.
Right. So
we were on vacation, and wasn't you that got the scratch on your eye, and we put coconut oil on it.
Only thing that would get rid of that, was coconut oil. That was crazy.
Yeah, and it's actually good for acne because it actually, same thing, blocks those glands. So I mean,
perfect.
And the problem with other things that block the glands, like other greasy agents and stuff, is it doesn't have the antibacterial.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I think a small amount. Again, I always reserve the right to be wrong, and somebody might come out and go, "Oh, you're full of crap." But for now, we're going to call that a myth that we just debunked.
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay, what else you got on your list?
Well, I think we might need to take a break before we.
Oh, okay. Let's take a little break, and we'll be right back with the Naked Doctor. Hi, welcome back to the Naked Doctor Show. I'm Dr. Tammy.
I'm Lauren.
Today we have a fun show. We're talking about health myths. Myths.
We're busting myths.
We're busting myths.
And myths and lifts at the same time, etc.
Yeah, what was that movie? Was it Fragile?
Well, no, Glass.
Glass.
But also,
what is it? We need to talk about memory, clearly.
I
One
know.
of the myths on here is we only use 10% of our brains. We'll talk about that.
We may as well go over that real quick.
Yeah, well, let's do that. But anyway, the guy in there had split personalities,
Right.
and we always laugh because he'd say etc.
etc.
Totally cute. So anyway, 10% of our brains, it's actually, I think part of that comes from,
I knew that was a myth for myself personally. I just wanted to throw that out there. I know I used at least like 80%.
there was a neuroscientist named Bruce Lipton, and he actually did a lot of research on this. And he said that came from the difference between gray matter and white matter. So we have 10% gray matter, and then we have 90% white matter. So we thought that the functioning part of the brain, of the cerebral cortex, was only 10%. So we thought that we only used 10% of our brain. But we've done PET scans, and science has looked at every area of the brain that lights up cognitively, even the brainstem for more reactive type things. So we know that we use 100% of our brain. The cognitive functioning, as it kind of moves through, even if it's not just reactive reptilian things, is still we're using all of our brain. So it's not an excuse if you forget something, or if somebody's being stupid, or
It's funny. I remember somebody telling me when I was younger, like, if we were able to use more of our brain, we could fly. I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to learn as much as I can. I'm going to work on that. Which is pretty funny. But
sometimes you do want to say to people, would you please use a little more of your brain?
You're trying real hard. Can you try a little harder?
So some of these things we're going to try to cover a lot of ground here and do like 10 different myths.
Well, one of the things...
we'll be quick with some of them, so we won't go into a lot of detail.
Yeah. So this one, I feel like is very good on timing, and it's that cold air causes colds.
Right.
So my daughter's dad would swear by that, that's the truth, that cold air causes colds. Cover your ears, you're going to get a cold. Cover your, but then at the same time you hear about actually people using cold therapy to heal.
Yeah, right? Like cryotherapy, like your mom's place. It's interesting because I just had a patient today with flip-flops on, and it's pretty chilly outside. I don't know what the temperature is. I think they're calling for snow like Thursday or something. But I'm like, yeah, my son's like that too. He's 15 and he always wears flip-flops and shorts. We'll be going to the movies with snow on the ground. And I'm like, Donnie, why don't you put a coat on? You're going to catch a cold. And so, like, it's just conditioning. It's like lopping the end of the roast off. It's like, oh my gosh, I hear my mom in my head. But cold can actually, if you are exposed to different temperatures, it can cause some stress on the system, which changes your hormones, your cortisol levels, and stress can decrease your immune system's function, but it's not the actual cold. One of the things that happens is that during cold weather, we're indoors more, and so we're in smaller quarters with more people coming indoors,
flowing.
So we're exposed to more germs.
Interesting.
And, one of the myths too is that colds are, just bacteria and that we need antibiotics. So a lot of colds actually are, sometimes it's a response to environmental allergens and things like that because the change in the weather. And most of the time, it's a virus that's causing it, and antibiotics don't work for that. There's a great supplement I love called monolaurin, and it's actually a derivative of pineapple. Yeah, monolaurin. And they've done studies to show that it's just as effective on methicillin-resistant staph, which is a kind of flesh-eating bacteria. And these are JAMA articles, major medical journals that know this, and people don't. So, we have all these natural things. We have echinacea. Echinacea is actually a derivative of cannabis.
Really?
Yeah.
My mom used to force me to take echinacea when I was kids. Oh my gosh, talk about disgusting.
It is really
Oh my god.
gross.
I'm like giving Levin, the baby, medicine now for some antacid stuff in her face when she drinks that. Reminds me of how I felt about my mom forcing echinacea down my throat growing up. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I know it's gross.
Yeah. We're actually we were talking about doing a show on cannabis myths, so that'll be a fun one. We'll do that soon.
Good deal. But some good transition into off of this multivitamin, or what you're talking about, is that everybody needs a multivitamin. That's another myth.
Yes,
yeah?
a lot of our food is deficient, and a lot of the things that we fortified our foods with, we have put a lot of vitamins back in and minerals. The difference between the word vitamin and supplement is a vitamin is something that is essential to your body. It's, vitamin E or vitamin C. A supplement is something that you take to supplement those vitamins.
Gotcha.
So we kind of get that nomenclature mismatched a little bit. Everyone needs vitamins. Whether they need supplementation of those vitamins can be based on deficiency. We check for things in our office like vitamin D deficiencies and iron deficiencies and things like that. The problem with a lot of things that are fortified back into our foods is that, like iron, it's oftentimes a metallic iron and not elemental iron. So our body doesn't even know what to do with those things. So I would say that, testing is good to see what your nutritional deficiencies are. There are certain things that are just deficient across the board in people, like iodine, magnesium, vitamin D. So I highly recommended that, and we do that in our office. A lot of offices don't even know to do that. So highly recommend that you get tested, and you can get too much of vitamins too. So that's a good reason to get tested. And there are a lot of multivitamins that they have done studies on that from big chain department stores, won't say any of those names, but that have showed that it's just fillers and there's not even what they say is supposed to be in there. So if you're going to spend your money, make sure you spend your money on a good supplement, not something cheap from a large chain department store. Not saying there's not some good stuff out there, but why waste your money on something? And the other thing is that some of them use like metallic elements or minerals, and so your body can't absorb those. So it's really worth your time to get something a little more quality. And we've done shows on folic acid before. A lot of multivitamins use folic acid, which is a synthetic version of something called folate, which if you have a genetic problem with metabolizing that, can actually cause everything from cancer to seizure disorders to hormone imbalances. So it's really good to get educated on that. That's one of the things we do here is we kind of go above and beyond to talk about things that are safe versus not safe. So, yeah.
I think we might need to take a break, but we've got 7 more that we can talk about more.
Okay, cool. We'll take a little break and we'll be right back with more myths debunked. Welcome back to The Naked Doctor. I'm Dr. Tammy.
I'm Lauren.
We're having so much fun this week. We're talking about myths.
Can we just do this every show?
I know, right? Well, we got so many shows. We could do this like forever. So we're going to go through a few more. We're going to be kind of brief because we only have so much time on the show today, so won't go into a lot of detail. But
I think something that's very important, and especially coming from a doctor, is understanding how much water you should drink a day. Because one thing is that you should drink 8 glasses of water a day, but that's a myth. So tell me.
Well, they always say 8-ounce glasses a day. And that was kind of, and I get it. They were just trying to get people to drink more water. And some people who don't drink hardly any, or they're drinking coffee or soda all day, which there's some water in that. So you can add that up. But a lot of things like sodas and coffee actually dehydrate you. So then you need to drink more
water.
Fluids. Yeah. So the 8 ounces is not based on weight. So if you are a 300-pound person versus what are you, like 80 pounds soaking wet?
82 and a half. Just kidding, I'm like 120.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it makes a huge difference.
More water, yeah. So you have to hydrate all those cells, and the brain cells are very susceptible to dehydration. Won't even go into all the problems that dehydration can cause. But if you want to lose weight, you actually have to hydrate more, because the cells have more inflammation when you don't have water flushing them through. You have problems with constipation, headaches, blood pressure issues.
So if you want to lose weight, you have to hydrate more. Did you hear that? If you want to lose weight, you have to hydrate more. Water is so important when losing weight, and even to the point where if you are drinking enough water, that helps with your appetite suppressant as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Because sometimes we think we're hungry, but we're actually thirsty. Yeah. So, drinking water when you think you're hungry, it will either tell you like, oh, actually I was just thirsty, or it'll at least supplement some of that, and so that you don't overeat. So, yeah. So,
and you're a competitive bodybuilder, so you really know. I mean, you've seen it, you knew what you had to do, and so people are just kind of out there maybe might not even realize that.
Yeah.
So there's a formula, and if you could kind of
put a graphic,
blast that little graphic of the formula. We're not going to go into the details of that, but you can just Google how much water do I need based on weight, and it's significantly more for most people, even a 68-pound soaking wet girl like
68 and a half.
For me, I think I calculated based on my weight one time. I'm 72 pounds.
I was thinking something like that.
It's like, turns out to be like 12 8-ounce glasses a day. It's significantly more. We have really undereducated or under recommended. But for people who aren't even drinking 6 a day, it's better than nothing.
Totally. Okay, so another one. Oh, let's talk about vaccines.
Oh, gosh.
I think that's probably a big one for a
Huge
lot of
topic.
people.
Huge topic. There's so many concerns. So my thought on vaccines, and you'll see so much differing things. And actually, one of our nurses today was saying that her husband, every time they go into the stores or Walmart or Walgreens and they see the vaccine signs,
Flu season, come get your flu shot.
pressuring her to get their son vaccinated. And I know my son's dad, every year I start hearing this. He had his flu shot and he lives in Florida, and it's like, I don't really want to go into why I think he shouldn't. And, having a child on the autistic spectrum, I really have been overly trying to educate myself on this subject. And even as much as I have read and researched, there's still some question in my mind. I had a boy that died. He was like 19 in my residency program from meningitis. And so the pneumococcal vaccine is always in the back of my head. And I actually did get that for my son this past year, but I've stopped all his other vaccinations. The problem with vaccinations is that immunization just means that your body is immunized or it's making a memory response to something you've been exposed to. So a vaccination is something you give to stimulate the immune system. Little fun fact.
But you're
there.
putting like a little piece of that
You
into
are.
your body.
And whether that's live or it's what they call attenuated, which is a dead piece of that protein, either way, it's stimulating the reaction so that your body can make an immune response. When it was first discovered, it was discovered for smallpox. Was it smallpox? Yeah, smallpox. And so they discovered that if the people who were milking the cows where the smallpox came from, they didn't get sick because they were exposed to it and their immune system was stimulating that response. So what we do now is we give somebody a little bit of that to stimulate the immune response. The problem, as I see it, is we've put a lot of chemicals, a lot of preservatives in, and we overstimulate the immune system, in my opinion. So babies leave the hospital with over 24 different vaccines, which have combinations of literally, it's like 30 different proteins that we're exposing a baby to. And people don't realize, number one, that if you are going to vaccinate your child, that you can get the ones without preservatives. It's a lot cheaper for places like Walgreens and Walmarts to give you the cheap stuff that's got all the preservatives because the shelf life is much longer. If you actually get a prescription for your vaccines, you can get it without the preservatives in it. So it costs the insurance companies a little more. And of course, they don't want to do that.
I'm glad I know a doctor.
Right, but it's still an option.
Yeah.
And I tell people if you're going to get the shingles vaccine or any other vaccine, why not? Even if you have to do a little more on a copay, do that.
Worth it.
And get the preservative free. And you also have the option to, with your children, spread the vaccines out. You don't have to do it just because your doctor's office says that's
All
the way
at
we've
once,
always
yeah.
done it. You can spread that. It's a little more inconvenient, but what you do for your child, I think, could make all the difference in their immune system being overstimulated, which can cause sensory issues, which then can cause all sorts of issues later in the child, and not only more propensity to getting sick, which is what you're trying to prevent.
Yeah, so it just works against itself.
Yeah.
It could.
So I'm not anti-vaccine, but I am anti-preservatives. Do it smart. Do it slow.
Right. And also letting people know what options they do have, because I think that's the biggest
Absolutely.
thing. Because people, I would never know,
Yeah.
like that would make sense to spread it out, or that I can even have that option, or that any of these other options like the non-preservative ones. I've never even heard of that. So
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm not alone in that, but
Sure.
it's like educate people so they can make the best decision for
Absolutely.
themselves. So yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm not anti-vaccine. A lot of times natural doctors or people who do alternative health stuff don't
believe in vaccines.
in vaccines. So it's kind of like, I do a lot of, as a medical doctor, I still do a lot of alternative stuff with hormones and supplements, but I still believe that there are
There's a
very
time and place
real
for-
parts of
yeah.
medicine, like an antibiotic
course.
might be appropriate if someone's got fever and they're infected, or strep throat, or,
Of course. It's just not always the best route.
Right.
So it's like you're offering an alternative route.
Absolutely.
Not the other route. It's just an alternative, another option. So.
And really, I think that's why people come to us, because we educate them, and it's always an informed decision. It's all about the education.
Totally.
At the end of the day, that's really what we are. Okay, let's educate some more.
Okay. I think we got time for maybe one more. This one's kind of a different one, but can you get an STD from a toilet seat?
This is so fun. So, no.
Okay.
That's going to be my final answer.
So all you that have ever heard that answer from your partner, you just take that with it for what you will and handle that situation accordingly.
Oh, honey, you must have got that from the toilet.
I got it from a tractor truck seat, actually.
So here's the deal with that. Most bacteria and viruses that are sexually transmitted are going to die when they hit cold air or on a blank surface, basically, because most viruses need a host. There is the possibility that some things like strep could be, and a lot of pregnant women, they'll get certain strains of strep or staph. And I don't know that some of that's not transmitted through the environment. And clearly, if there's bacteria and there's a growth medium, like something gross, it can absolutely grow in there. People have swabbed and grown up things in petri dishes. But things like HIV and things like that, those viruses die on air contact. So it's not impossible. One of the things, I actually had a patient say they thought they got it from a toilet seat. Actually, they said they thought they got it from a bathing suit. And it creeped me out because I thought, how many bathing suits have I tried on with those little plastic pads in
It's
there?
just terrible. Don't do that.
Don't do that. Oh my gosh. I mean, I think I usually use my underwear when I do that. But, like when you bring it home, I don't wash my bathing suits first. But the odds that you're going to get something from that are very, very slim. If at all. So I'm going to stick with my answer, no.
No. The answer is no. Awesome. I think we need to take a break.
Are we going to take a break? All right. I think that's probably about all we got. We're going to close here in just a minute. We'll be right back with the Naked Doctor and tell you how you can find out answers to your questions if you have more myths that you're curious about. Hi, welcome back. We've been talking about really fun things today. We've been debunking healthcare, health myths, and we have so many more that we could do on every level: health, lifestyle, wellness.
We do like a 10-part series.
10-part series, yeah. We'll probably do a lot more, and then a whole bunch of myths about cannabis, which is super exciting, and we'll do that as well. But if you have questions, you can email us at info@healingartscenters.com.
Yeah, and you can go to any of our social media sites, on the Naked Doctor Show, Healing Art Centers, on Facebook and Instagram. Message us if you have questions. Make an appointment if you want to come in. Any suggestions and whatnot. Yeah,
we'll help you answer questions. And also we're always happy to help educate as well. So we might even address some of your questions on our show. So,
definitely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. So visit us. We love you very much. Have a blessed week. Stay well, and just always ask questions. There's nothing wrong with asking questions, and anyone who tries to limit your question asking
make you feel stupid.
usually has an agenda. So don't go that way. All right. We'll see y'all next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching.